In this video, I'm going to talk about redefining failure and learning from your mistakes. Hey Sugar Snaps, if you're new to the channel, welcome in. Right now we're doing a Build a Creativity Practice Challenge, and you're welcome to join us. There's a corresponding ebook you can find in the description below. So I invite you to grab your works in progress, something cozy to drink, and let's talk about creativity and being consistent with a creativity practice. Today's topic is redefining failure and learning from our mistakes, which is going to be probably a challenging topic for a lot of us. I know it is for me. So it's definitely one that I think creatives, I think it's worth thinking about and discussing, because failure really is a great teacher. And we're going to read the chapter today and hear more about that. I am in my living room right now. I've got a really nice hot apple strudel scented candle burning, and it's just adding some nice ambiance. I have my work in progress today, which I have been working on for a long time now. Feels like a long time. This is a Sailor Swift top. The pattern is by Kudavikika. I'm really into her patterns this year. And this I did her Sailor Swift top, which is actually a striped pattern from her, but I did it in one color because I had this great yarn from our trip to England last spring, and I wanted to knit it up into a fun tank top. So I am going to start the Italian bind off on the hem here because I'm actually really close to being done. I'll bind off the hem, and then I have the I-cord, or I think that's what it's called, I-cord, around the neckline and the armholes. I've recently saw a really cool tool that has 3 prongs that look like crochet hooks, and you use that to help make the I-cord along the edge of knitting. I'm going to look into it because I think it would be really helpful. I love the finished edge, or the look of that type of finished edge, and I did it on my other Sailor Swift top that I knitted, and it just takes a long time to do. So if there was a tool that made that a little bit simpler, I would probably incorporate it into more projects. I don't have that tool at the moment, so I'm going to do the Italian bind off today and maybe get that tool for another day. I have tea somewhere around here. Set it down somewhere. Let me know in the comments what your work in progress is and what drink you chose to have as your project companion. Now I'm going to read chapter 8 of the Your Daily Creative Practice ebook so that you can work on your WIP while I read aloud. I find that listening to audiobooks is much easier as a creative maker because I can listen and do the thing that I'm doing, where it's harder to weave baskets or knit or macrame when I'm trying to also read a book. So audiobooks are great. I haven't put this entire ebook into audiobook form, but I'm going to read this chapter for you to give you a few minutes to work on your creativity practice and your works in progress. So let's dive in. Chapter 8, Redefining Failure and Learning from Mistakes. Failure is often perceived as a negative outcome, but it is an invaluable teacher in the creative process. Redefining failure and embracing mistakes as opportunities for growth can transform your creative practice and empower you to take risks and innovate. The role of failure in creativity. Failure is an inherent part of the creative process. It signals experimentation, exploration, and pushing boundaries. By redefining failure, you can view it as a stepping stone to success rather than a setback. Benefits of embracing failure. It encourages experimentation. Accepting failure frees you to experiment and explore new ideas without fear of judgment. It fosters resilience. Learning from mistakes builds perseverance, essential for long-term creative success. It promotes growth. Analyzing failures provides valuable insights and lessons, contributing to personal and artistic growth. 5 strategies for redefining failure. 1. Shift your mindset. Reframe your understanding of failure. Instead of viewing it as a negative outcome, see it as a natural part of the creative process. Recognize that every mistake is an opportunity to learn and improve. 2. Analyze mistakes objectively. When you encounter a mistake or failure, take a step back and analyze it objectively. Identify what went wrong, why it happened, and what you can learn from the experience. This analysis helps you gain insights and avoid similar pitfalls in the future. 3. Celebrate effort and risk-taking. Celebrate the effort and courage it takes to try something new, even if it doesn't succeed. Acknowledge the bravery involved in taking risks and stepping outside your comfort zone. 4. Keep a failure journal. Maintain a journal where you document your failures and the lessons learned from each experience. Reflecting on these entries can provide perspective and remind you of your growth. 5. Share your experiences. Share your experiences with failure and mistakes with others. Open conversations about failure can reduce its stigma and foster a supportive, creative community. 3 ways to cultivate a growth-oriented mindset. 1. Embrace a growth mindset. Adopt a growth mindset that values learning and improvement over perfection. Embrace challenges and setbacks as opportunities for development and growth. 2. Set learning goals. Instead of focusing solely on outcome-based goals, set learning goals emphasizing skill development and exploration. This approach encourages continuous improvement and reduces the fear of failure. 3. Practice self-compassion. Be kind to yourself when you encounter failure. Treat yourself with the same understanding and encouragement you would offer a friend. Recognize that everyone makes mistakes and that they are a natural part of the creative journey. Redefining failure and learning from mistakes will transform your creative practice. Shifting your mindset, analyzing mistakes objectively, and embracing a growth-oriented perspective can help you navigate your creative journey with confidence and curiosity. A note from Brittany. A mindset I discovered on my journey to embracing failure has been one I call the try it twice method. I have found this to be especially impactful if I'm learning an entirely new set of skills or techniques or using an unfamiliar medium. The try it twice method involves doing the same project twice. The first time to learn and gather information. Don't try to get it perfect. Focus on handling and discovering the nature of the materials. Grasp the process and steps involved. The first one is the sample or test version. Then, armed with an understanding of how the materials work, how to follow the necessary steps, and the nature of the project as a whole, I'll try it again. This is not for everyone, and I certainly don't do it with every project I create. But the idea that my first one doesn't have to be nice frees me up to appreciate the process and the materials and opens me up to learning without judgment. Question of the day. What is the last creative project you labeled a fail? Try reframing it in your mind. What did you learn from the project? In other words, how was the project a success of creative experimentation? In the ebook and in this video, I'm thinking of failure specifically around creative endeavors because creative practice is the ability to open yourself up to experimentation and exploring and trying new things and being okay with failure. I know there's a lot in our society that demands perfection and demands success, but this is one of those areas that I feel allows us to relax a little bit and be able to experiment and try out new things. I was talking to my sister-in-law who's in the medical field, and she was talking about the perfection that is demanded in her work, and thank heavens that is the case because you don't want a doctor thinking that you're in an experiment at all. But we don't have that same pressure in the creative realms and in the making world, and so we can free ourselves up to experimenting. And if you are in a field that demands a lot of success and doesn't allow for experimentation, then I think there's a lot of freedom and a lot of ability to explore in creative practice and free yourself up to having a space where you don't have to be perfect or achieve a certain result. So I find failure to be sometimes very frustrating because I have a goal in mind or something that I want to achieve, and failing can get in the way of that. But I'm trying to live in my making and my creativity practice with the mindset that failure is okay and that it opens the door to learning new things and developing my understanding of materials and how things work. Um, I definitely have room for growth, and I think that's true for everyone. But I just wanted to share the concept of redefining failure because I think it's something that we all struggle with. And talking about it, like the ebook was saying, sharing your failures as well as your successes with the community or with a friend can be really helpful for others to free them up to experiment and try new things and be okay with not succeeding the first time. And there's also something to be said about the fact that in creative practice, you are failing in private. You don't necessarily have to announce your failures to the world. It could just be between you and your workspace. Um, so there's a lot less pressure in this arena or in this area of life to experiment and not have an audience because yeah, you don't have to tell anyone if you don't want to. Although I do think telling others about your failures makes you more human and more relatable because we all fail and it's nice to know that we're not the only one. And in creativity practice, the stakes are pretty low. So taking the opportunity to experiment and be okay with failure in your making journey, it's low stakes. Speaking of failure and low stakes, I'm working on my Italian bind off and I'm pretty sure I'm doing this right, but I definitely didn't start out exactly right. I have a little bit of a bubble here, but at this point I'm not going to go back and redo it. So I have this much done. This bind off takes some significant time because you're threading so much yarn through the stitches, but it will be worth it. This adds a little bit of stretchiness to your piece, the Italian bind off, so it's great for the hem of a shirt or cuffs of a sleeve or something because it has some give. It's not quite as tight as other bind off methods. And this yarn that I'm using, I ran out of the color from my trip, the yarn that I got on my trip, and so I had to come up with a new solution, and my solution was this kind of yellowy dyed yarn because there's this color, the same color splotched in the variegation of the main color. And this yarn is actually dyed with carrot tops. I dyed this yarn couple years ago now and had it on my yarn wall. And when I was going around the studio trying to find a yarn that would match this piece, I came across this one and thought, oh, that'll work okay. So here we are. This will be the hem and then also the bind off on the sleeves and the neckline. Really wanted to get this tank top done for the summer, but that didn't happen. So here we are. Gonna have it done for the next summer. Along with what you are working on currently, my next question is, as you are doing your works in progress and building your creativity practice through this challenge, are you keeping a project ideas list or a mental projects ideas list that you come up with as you're working? I know that when I'm working on one project, there are times when I dream up new projects because for whatever reason, maybe I'm slightly bored of the current project or I've sparked an inspiration or an idea, and so I come up with new ideas. So I have started a list of projects I would like to do, or my project wish list. If you are in the same boat and you'd like to share, I'd love to hear what project ideas you have come up with over the last several days of this challenge. My project of the week is a little bit of a big one. I was working on my temperature blanket, wrapping it up from last year, and trying to decide whether I wanted to start a new one for the new year or take a year off. And of course, went from, I think I want a year off to, well, maybe if I got yarn and I dyed all of the yarn with natural dyes in different tones and then created my temperature card with the different colors, I could do a naturally dyed temperature blanket that's all completely hand done, the dyes and the knitting or crochet. That is an ambitious undertaking, my friend. So that is going on the idea list for a someday project. Probably not this year. Maybe when I have an endless amount of natural dyeing energy. Do you have any projects like that that are like, oh, that would be so awesome, but I don't know that I'd ever spend the time actually doing that? Okay, today's quote of the day is from Tana French, an American-Irish author. She said, I don't do that kind of negativity. If you put your energy into thinking about how much the fall will hurt, you're already halfway down. She's talking about failure, and if you're afraid to fail, then you've already failed. If you're afraid of trying something because you think you're going to fail, then you already have failed. You're already halfway down. Just a little kind of inspirational thought about how, or the value of being willing to try and being willing to fail in the trying. If you need a video to watch while you're working on your works in progress this week, I have a video here suggested for you, and you can also find playlists in the description below. Thanks for joining me in today's video. I hope your challenge is going well, and I will see you in the next one. Happy making. Bye.